How scared should we be about this?
It raises the question for the labs of, like, if you're doing that with gorillas, how they cannot get out. You can't let them out. Like, why didn't you lock the door? How could you possibly let that happen?
Ready? Hello from New York and welcome back to Fortune Daily. Let's start with a company that just put up the kind of numbers Wall Street usually expects from consumer apps, not defense contractors. Palantir beat earnings in a big way yesterday. Second quarter revenue was up 93% year over year to $1.94 billion, and US revenue alone grew 115%. Here's why you should take note. This is a company that spent years being known for two things. Number one, secretive government work, and number two, a degree of volatility. Now, Palantir is quietly becoming an example of turning data infrastructure into a business rather than just a buzzword, with CEO Alex Karp stating that the, quote, demand for AI sovereignty has now been unleashed. Working in areas that others in AI have deliberately shied away from certainly doesn't hurt either. Now let's zoom out for a second to the top of the global business landscape. Last week, Fortune published the 2026 edition of the Fortune Global 500 list, which is our ranking of the largest companies in the world by revenue. As we discussed yesterday, Amazon is now number one, top of that list, but there's another story that I want us to focus on. So in 2026, women run 34 of our global 500 companies. That is actually an all-time record, but it's still just a paltry 6.8%. Compare that to the Fortune 500, for example, which focuses on just US companies. There, women currently lead 55 companies, or 11%. That's also a historic record. It's still a tiny percentage. So what does all of this mean? Well, the Global 500 trails behind the Fortune 500 in gender parity for a few reasons. Mainly, the Global 500 is even more competitive since it measures the largest businesses in the world, not just the US. And this means that the bar to entry is much higher. So what can we take away? It's fair to say that women have made real progress when it comes to the top jobs in business, but they're still more likely to be leading companies that are smaller than the world's biggest firms, which still tend to be run by men. And this matters because the Global 500 companies represent a huge 2/3 of the world's GDP. And who sits in the biggest jobs at the biggest tables at the biggest companies isn't just a diversity stat. It's a signal about who gets to shape the future of healthcare, the future of AI innovation, of global supply chains, you name it. It's safe to say we still have a long way to go. Tying together today's themes of powerful women and AI innovation, senior AI reporter Emily Forlini joins me today to explain what on earth is going on with all of these AI hacking sprees. And she'll also chat to me a bit about her exclusive interview with former OpenAI exec Fiji Simo. But first, it's time for Bull, Bear, Base Case, where we break down a single market story from three distinct angles. Today, the bond market, where long-term yields are surging following Chairman Kevin Warsh's latest Fed meeting. Joining us to break all of this down and tell us what it means for investors and the broader macro picture is Fortune's very own executive editor, Jim Edwards, calling in from London. We're putting Jim on the clock for each of the three angles. Here we go. Hi, Jim. Thank you for joining us from sweaty London. So let's start with the bull case. Kevin Warsh is giving less forward guidance than we're used to hearing from the Fed because he wants people to focus on the markets rather than what the Fed is saying. Tell us why that's a good idea.
Well, from Kevin Warsh's point of view, it's a good idea because he wants the markets to focus on the markets themselves, the supply and demand of whatever their equities and assets are, rather than just sort of guessing about what the Fed really means and where the Fed is going to go to next. He wants to use his metaphor, he wants people to play the ball, not the referee. And he thinks that the market will be more efficient and deliver better results more stable results for everybody if it stops this guessing game with the Fed.
Okay, and you're on the clock, Jim, so I'm going to move us on to the bear case. The Fed not giving the guidance that maybe we're used to means there's more capacity for things to go wrong in the economy. Give us your pitch for that take. You're on the clock.
So the bear case is that anytime you have less information in a market, the market automatically is less efficient because people are just guessing. Much of investing, particularly in the bond market and certainly in the stock market, is about guessing what will happen in the future. And the less information you have, the harder those guesses become, the more likely it is that individuals and institutions will get something wrong or misinterpret something that was not supposed to be a signal from the Fed. So it's going to introduce volatility. I got to say, most people on Wall Street kind of hate this.
Most people on Wall Street kind of hate this. Okay, interesting. Let's go to base case, our last stop on this tour of the Fed. Kevin Warsh is a respected economist. Most people would say he's not going to do anything crazy. 30 seconds, is that fair?
Yeah, he's a well-known economist. He's very serious. He assisted Ben Bernanke in the Great Financial Crisis. He's not going to do anything crazy. It's it will be fine. I don't think we're going to see a great deal of drama here, and people are pretty good at working out what the Fed is going to do in the future. Like, it's not that hard.
Jim, thank you so much. You're as multifaceted as your takes on the bond market. We look forward to seeing you back here again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Two of the world's leading AI labs confirm their models have autonomously found and exploited vulnerabilities in real-life companies. We're talking to senior AI reporter Emily Forlini about regulation, security, and the hacking that could still be going on, unreported. Emily, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get on to AI hacking, I really enjoyed reading a piece that you published yesterday that I wanted to speak to you about. You got the first interview with Fiji Simo, who is a former, very senior OpenAI exec who has recently stepped back to focus on her health. Tell us a bit about what you learned from speaking to Fiji and why you wanted to speak to her in the first place.
Yeah, so she had a very interesting announcement on her departure from OpenAI. She's really honest about this 7-year battle with a chronic condition called POTS. It's like it basically kind of means like you have brain fog when you stand up, you have elevated heart rate and you can pass out and you can have nausea, headaches. So it's a really debilitating disease. And she was unable to be continuing her role. She was reporting to Sam Altman, like very high up, overseeing different applications, and AGI deployment was her title. So she was like, I can't do it. And that really stuck out to me because I think it's hard for scrutinized people to be honest about their health. And she was so open about it. And then my cousin actually has POTS, and it's been very devastating to see that. She's been in and out of school since 7th grade, and it's like totally taken over her life. And so I reached out to Fiji and I told her about my cousin, and I was like, do people who have POTS actually have reason to believe AI could solve these types of diseases? And she responded and said, yes, I created a company that's going to use AI to hopefully do that. So she wanted to talk about it.
Which is amazing. You said how difficult it is for highly scrutinized people to be transparent about illness, which is often conflated with weakness. I think it's even tougher for female leaders and female leaders in the very male-dominated tech and AI space to speak about these things. Does Fiji speaking change the landscape of that, or do you think she's still an anomaly in terms of transparency?
It's a good question. I think it's definitely hard for women. It's also hard for men. I mean, you see people like Donald Trump being very closed about their health, or like when he got COVID, not wanting to talk about it. And so it's tough for everybody. We did see a week after a researcher called Lillian Wang, who left OpenAI to go found a company called Thinking Machines. She said she's leaving Thinking Machines because of her health. I don't know if she was public about it because of Fiji being public about it. And also then she said, and it came out, she's actually going back to OpenAI. So I'm not sure, but it was just odd. We had 2 health-related departure announcements within a week of each other. So I was like, maybe it'll be a trend.
Well, we really wish Fiji well, and thank you so much for writing that piece. Let's move on to the AI hacking extravaganza that we seem to be living through. Every few days, there seems to be new AI models that have escaped. Help us understand, help a layperson like me, who is not steeped in the AI world like you are, what on earth is going on here and why we should care.
Well, you're not a layperson. Very accomplished journalist, for the record, but so I thought of an analogy that could help describe this, because AI hacking is just so niche. It's either for nerds or movies, kind of, and now we're all in the messy middle and it's become mainstream. So in this case, it was basically OpenAI was doing internal testing on a model. So let's say they're testing like gorillas. They have a lab. They're testing gorillas. They're doing something weird. They're injecting them with potions, something sci-fi. So they're testing gorillas. And basically a gorilla got out. And it went into the city, and it went specifically to the library. It broke the window to get some books to bring it back to pass a test that they were giving this gorilla. So that's basically the AI. It was taking a test. It's called a benchmarking test for its capabilities. And it needed the answers. And it went out. It got internet access, went to Hugging Face to get materials to then pass the test.
And Hugging Face is, just explain to us briefly for people who don't know.
Hugging Face is, it's kind of a repository for different AI resources, and it's really known for hosting open source models. So you can download models from there.
And what struck me about the OpenAI case, which happened kind of a week or so ago, and then Anthropic, which has been revealed more recently, is that both companies have been pretty transparent about what happened, how they discovered it, and what they're going to do next. Did that approach surprise you in any way?
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. You want people to be transparent about something that's very concerning and could have effects, like if the AI broke out and got into our bank accounts. It could have a real personal impact. So that's why it's important that basically we don't know what they're doing. We can't control them. But it did leave people wondering if it was a marketing stunt, which is kind of unfortunate, because I've been steeped in this for 2 weeks now, writing about this every day, talking to foremost researchers, and none of them think it's a marketing stunt because they've already seen AIs do this type of thing. So this is kind of known behavior. It's just a more extreme version. So people in the industry don't think it's a marketing stunt, but it's left, I think, everyone else a little bit confused. And
I guess there's the question that if the AI is capable of escaping gorilla style, what else could it do? Could it create and disseminate a super virus? How scared should we be about this?
I think we definitely should have our antenna up that we need to, put more controls on this. And it raises the question for the labs of, like, if you're doing that with gorillas, how they cannot get out. You can't let them out. Like, why didn't you lock the door? What kind of controls do you have? Is there a padlock on the cage? Like, how could you possibly let that happen? And we're hearing reports that OpenAI did not know about it before Hugging Face disclosed that it happened. So they really don't know what their gorillas are doing. And then Anthropic also, they went through their records after the incident, and they found 3 cases of the same thing happening. So they had 3 gorillas loose. So it's like nobody is able to.
And they didn't know in advance.
And they didn't know.
Okay, kind of terrifying.
Yeah, so you don't really want drugged gorillas running around the city. Yeah.
About over 1,000 employees from a range of top AI companies have signed a letter saying that they want the US government to help ensure the development of these models are slowed down and more carefully monitored. How likely is that letter to trigger government regulation?
It's a lovely idea. Many people feel the industry is moving very fast. In my reporting, when I meet people in the industry, most of them are very tired. There's something new every day, and it's moving crazy fast. And things like, vibe coding allows them to release new features so quickly. And so the letter is basically saying we need to have coordinated pacing, as they call it, across companies and across the US and mainly China. It's great. To me, it was a bit unrealistic. I'm not sure I don't see that happening, and I think the letter kind of lacked a specific ask, in my opinion. It just asked for the government to oversee a pacing effort.
What could have been an ask that was in that letter?
I would have liked it to say, convene a meeting with China by the end of the year, or start a summit, or slow down data center development, or like something really specific that the people in the industry are like, this would help us pace. But just saying, coordinate an international pacing effort, I'm not. If I was in government, I might be like, I'm not sure what that means, and why don't you do it yourself?
So I'm putting it to the side. I know that a lot of the big AI titans are having a meeting today with representatives from the government. What should we be looking out for there?
Yeah, big week in AI safety. So the government is working on a framework to test these models before they go public. Do you remember the Anthropic thing that happened? The government kind of restricted Anthropic's model. Yeah. So that was in June, and we're kind of still having the fallout from that. And the Trump administration is saying it'll be voluntary, which is a bit confusing. Yes, they're towing this line between promoting industry and regulating, and it's all very tough. But they're meeting with Meta, Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic today, supposedly, to review the framework, which is done, and they're going to get their feedback on it. And then we'll see what it is. And like I said, it's going to be voluntary. So how do you enforce that?
Emily, thank you for joining us. Please stop writing about AI hacking and go and get some sleep, because I know it's been a big 2 weeks for you.
Yes. Thank you.
The hedge fund. So perhaps you've made enough money to love the term, in which case, good for you. Or perhaps, like me, you followed the exploits of Axe Capital through 7 seasons of Billions. Love that show. But there's one big reason that you're able to talk about hedge funds at all. Fortune magazine. Because the term did not exist before it graced the pages of Fortune. Legendary Fortune journalist Carol Loomis coined the term in 1966 while profiling the unique strategy of an investor who made his partners millions with, quote, speculative techniques for conservative ends, end quote. So a fund that hedges risk, in other words, by buying stocks you think will go up and shorting others you expect or pray will go down. So Carol Loomis became the poet laureate of leveraged commodities, that's quite a title, while reporting on Alfred Winslow Jones's managing strategy. The headline of the piece was, "The Jones Nobody Keeps Up With." But that quickly changed because that issue of Fortune was the one that launched 1,000 funds. Wall Street chased Jones's model and used the Loomis label in the process. And 50 years later, was it happily ever after for hedge funds? Well, your answer will vary greatly depending on whether you're Ken Griffin or Leopold Aschenbrenner, whose AI hedge fund recently completely imploded. So that's it. Thank you for watching Fortune Daily. I'm Ellie Austin. We'll see you tomorrow.